Welcome everybody, thank you for coming. I believe I have to read the grove housekeeping rules first. There are no planned fire alarms. If the alarm should sound, please exit the building using the nearest available fire exit. Once leaving the building, please make your way to the muster point, which is located by the staff car park over that way and identified by a green sign positioned in the shop bed. Please make yourself known to a member of staff on duty. This meeting is recorded. The meeting may also be recorded and broadcast by the press and members of the public. Please see Section 8 for guidance for public participation, including recording and use of social media at meetings. Thank you. We will follow the agenda. It's a full agenda, so I believe there may be some apologies.
Two apologies, Councillor Alex Wade and Councillor Osborne.
Thank you.
Apologies to Councillor Mark Clark as well, who's out of the country.
Declarations of interest and dispensations. To know any declaration of interest made by members in connection with an agenda item, members to specify the nature of the interest. Have we anyone?
Jim, do I need to, ask the clerk actually, need to declare an interest over item 16? Or did we do an ongoing dispensation for that one?
Did we do what, sorry?
Did we do an ongoing dispensation because the county is involved?
I see. From what I remember, you actually did applied for a general dispensation a year ago, actually, for all matters relating to Ballygeen, so you could input.
It was a long time ago, sorry, so that covers it.
But you could do it again at the next meeting, just to clarify. But as far as I'm concerned, it's still excellent.
Okay, thank you.
To receive any written requests for dispensations or disclosable pecuniary interest, and to grant any request for dispensation is appropriate. Anything else? No, we shall move on. Community safety update. The AXOs are on agenda item 3. Is everyone read? Has anyone got any comments? No.
I'll just add one point. I was with the AXO team when they did some school parking. It's part of the project where I'm looking at parking around a number of schools with them. So it's not finished yet, which is why it's not in this particular report. But they are, just to reassure everyone, that is part of their active grounds duties, and they are looking at parking and unsafe parking around schools. Thank you.
Thank you. We believe police may be here shortly, in which case we might come back to it.
That's the right cover.
The minutes are on agenda item 4. You've all seen and read the minutes. Does anyone have any comments on their accuracy?
I'm happy to propose.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
All approved.
All approved?
Yeah, super.
Chairman's announcements. May I remind councillors and the public of the Hythe activity is happening on Saturday 6th of August, and when there I do believe the awards for the community spirit and environment will be given. Can I just confirm with the clerk if that's closed now for nominations?
Yes, it's all dealt with now.
Thank you. This Saturday in Dibden Parish we have the horticulture and craft show, and you can build bud homes there if you're taking smaller ones along, or if indeed you want to do them yourself. I'd like to thank the officers for the considerable amount of money that was spent on doing up the recreation ground, and the fact that it's been well welcomed and well received within the community. So thank you. Money well spent, I believe. And finally, the success of Rock the Train. That was brilliant. So thank you to everyone who was involved in putting on that. Oh, and the blue plaque, which I did miss, for Sir Christopher Cockrell and his hovercraft.
Yeah.
Brilliant. We look forward to it being on the outside of the building. Number 6, reports by county and district members. I think it'd probably be prudent for those if we work our way round. With the first person, it's all good. County first.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies up front, this one is slightly longer than normal because councils have a big workup activity before the August break. I attended the Children and Families Advisory Panel, and the main topic was on child exploitation video, covering the way young people have been drawn into an exploitation situation and how they might avoid it. This resource provides to schools and other organisations that deal with young people, and I would encourage all local schools secondly to get this video, because it is really important to show how young people can be exploited by older young people and adults. And it's very important to do that. I also attended a corporate parenting board meeting where we discussed the activities of the board over the previous year and highlighted its successes. There's a report on children in care which rose in volume in the pandemic once the pandemic lockdown was over. It provides an update against key performance measures that are used to ensure that the needs of children in care are being met. That services are working effectively. It considers the pressures that are on services, including those caused by national and other factors, such as placement availability and residual pressures from the pandemic. Now the department is funded to do this. The report considers caseloads and the capacity of frontline services to work effectively with children in care, and considers the wider strategic framework and objectives of the service. The Children in Care Service continues to work to ensure our children in care have all their needs met and receive the best start in life, ready for their journey to adulthood. Although the immediate impacts of COVID has been addressed, services across the parish continue to see the impact of the last 2 years on the mental well-being and resilience of children, their families and the wider community. Staff continue to work hard to support these needs in creative and proactive ways. The services transformation agenda, which in normal speaking is cuts, building on the introduction of the Hampshire approach in 2018, this has been a shift in our approach to children's journey through care, is evidenced in a relentless focus on returning children to their birth families, for identifying connected people who can care for a child from a special guardianship order. However, the final item was an update on Hampshire Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services, CAMS for short, for looked after children. And the one I'm about to tell you also reflects on non-looked after children. It continues to be an appallingly poor, underfunded, understaffed and inefficient organisation. The average waiting time for a referral was 18 weeks, and treatment following referral was a further 54 weeks, a total of 72 weeks. Over a year. Over a year before I looked after a child with his or her issues and problems get treated. I explained to the representative of CAMS how totally unacceptable this was, for which he had no defence other than they were trying to improve things, which they say every year, and it gets worse. However, if you got the message, and I hope we see a real improvement going forward, this CAMS is also a really critical service for children with their birth families. We have very many, and in this community, children who are involved with CAMS, and they are suffering a similar sort of waiting time as children in care. It's just unacceptable. Until another children and young people select committee, he dealt with a number of issues, but the main one was home to school transport, and a plan to save just under £1 million by reducing the service and combined routes, some of which need parents to take their children to pick-up points from very early starts. It also combines children with serious mental and special needs with mainstream schools to save money. Although they promise to look at every case, some young people require special treatment to get them to school, and they will end up in another round of disagreements with parents, as we have with school placements. Parents are so concerned we have called in the decision to create certain aspects of the reverse. This call-in decision takes place tomorrow, where I will be attending to speak against this decision, mainly from the perspective of special needs children. They should be, they at the moment have their own specific arrangements to get to school, and that needs to continue. Some young people don't want to go. It's hard enough to get to school, but to chuck them in a bus with a large number of, shall we say, children not requiring this sort of extra treatment is actually pushing it a bit, and it's not acceptable. So we're trying to reverse the decision. I'll let you know at the next parish council meeting whether we have successful or not. The biggest success I had was to put a motion to the County Council to write to government in support of farmers and the cost of living. And after some negotiation with the Conservative majority, it was passed unanimously. It's not very often we get an opposition motion passed in the County Council. Finally today, the regular committee, I wrote to the regular committee and called in a decision to object to T&J Transport asking permission to modify their planning permission at Forest Lodge Farm and Quarry to double their operational activity from 96 vehicle movements a day to 192. This will affect double the activities on the site with noise, dust and mud and on dry and wet days respectively. It will double their carbon footprint. So on behalf of the residents of Metney View who are 35 metres from the site, I asked the committee to reject this. Obviously I wrote this before I went to the meeting. I gave an exceedingly long deputation speech, which they all cheered, well done, and very complimentary, and they still voted through. Even though the points I'm making were quite critical, it is the only quarry in Hampshire where residents are 35 metres away. These extra lorry movements on Forley Road are they will finish on time. And the reason they gave they wouldn't finish on time was because of the pandemic. Well, in 2021, all of us remember was in the middle of the pandemic. They came to the committee to double to triple the amount of equipment they wanted on site, so they'd be ready to finish in 2027. But he never mentioned doubling the vehicles last year. But all of a sudden, that's now a necessity. It's what I call planning creep. And afterwards, I turned around to the chat and said, look, yeah, they're going to be back next year to extend it. Because every year they come back for an extension of variation on planning. It's not set for the church. But we will continue struggling, and I have put on social media that if any residents have a complaint there, to send it to my email address and I will take it up on behalf of them. One of the problems was that they said, well, we haven't any complaints from residents. Well, probably most of the residents didn't know. I only found out because I looked at the planning papers. So we need people to complain to me, and I will take everyone up on their behalf. Because the more complaint we get, the more action we get, the more response we get from T&J Transport and from the county support. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Wade. Everybody has been emailed the report from Councillor Alexis McAvoy for oversight. Can I move on to the district members for a report?
Yeah, nothing from me, thank you.
Yeah, just briefly, I attended the full council meeting the other week, and I must say I was very disappointed when a suggestion was brought forward to have a look at the areas, how we could help people in areas of deprivation, one of which was in our parish. There's 4 areas of financial deprivation, and particularly those concerning children. There's 4 across the forest, and there's 1 on our patch. And I was exceedingly disappointed when certain members of the council thought it was funny. And they laughed and then said, we're doing enough. Further to that, I'm also a parish rep on the Dibden allotment fund, and just to highlight to people, you know, if people really are struggling, they can put in an application and, you know, for help with whatever they've got, they're in hardship. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Denman.
I, along with the other fellow councillors, have attended a full council meeting where we challenged the Cabinet's recommendation for the waste strategy and wheelie bins. They wouldn't listen to our request for a referendum. I've also attended with Councillor Alex Wade the Housing and Homeless Scrutiny Overview panel. They were saying there's been a spike in the homelessness partly due to landlords serving Section 21 notices, but they have introduced a service called Ring Before You Serve. So if landlords get in touch with the NFDC, they'll try and do something to alleviate the process. and we also questioned them about the looking at in properties installing heat pumps and alternative forms of non-gas heating systems. And our question to them was, it's very well putting them in, but will people be able to afford to run them with the escalating electricity costs?
Thank you, Councillor Cullen. Reports from members serving on outside bodies.
I'm on the TC as well.
Oh, of course you are, sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. It's been quite a busy period. Amongst the meetings I attended were 2 cabinet meetings. The first one, main item, beyond was a reduction in rates in my time to run Dibden Golf Course, which was adopted, and the adoption of an area quality assessment in the new development strategy planning department regarding the developers' allowance for emissions. Once again, it's now without any data to rationalise what they were doing. When questioned, the Cabinet did not know the level of air quality they want for New Forest, nor do they identify what is an acceptable level or unacceptable level of pollutants accepted from the developer. The second meeting was packed with another huge amount of issues. One of them was a £1.5 million underspend identified in the budget outturn of the New Forest District Council, which is usually plus or minus 3%. This time it's 8% underspend. Now the Conservatives put into reserves already 1.2 million in the budget for this coming year, for this year, and they had another 1.5 they put in for underspend from last year. And some of the money could have been used to help struggling New Forest residents with the cost of living instead of put into reserves that they don't need. The County Council came out of the pandemic in a very cash-strapped situation, and FTC is cash-rich. The second, in a similar vein, and this is the point that's been mentioned by my colleagues already, they ignored a motion of Councillor Chap Davis to set up a working party to look at deprivation. Usually a motion is passed or rejected, but to ignore it in such a serious and important subject is a political act which does show how important they think tackling deprivation is. Never seen it before in all the years of the council. Of the waste strategy, which has already been the environment sustainability overview and scrutiny panel, was the main act in both the cabinet meeting and the council meeting. It reminded everyone how we got to this place with appalling recycling and waste management, but the current Conservative administration not taking waste management seriously enough for countless years, forcing the residents of New Forest into a radical change. Well versed in its conception, the recommendations contain no wording regarding supporting or sorting out properties of residents who could not deal with wheelie bins. Although it was in the strategy, they would, but it was not in the recommendations, which is key point. Nor was there recommendations of waste minimisation, which is the highest and most important part of waste hierarchy. Again, is in the strategy not strong enough. And if councils do not vote on specific details, they can easily be lost or ignored if the administration wants to implement. One point in the strategy did say about minimisation. If you have a small bin of 180 litres, you will not have any excess called side waste. A somewhat naive point of view to have. Finally, in the council meeting, we proposed 2 amendments. As we said, one for a referendum, the other to have a 65% recycling supply targets and 55%. But the administration, despite some of them saying public voting purpose down. One minor appendix to this. A Hythe resident raised with me, what is the district doing about all the thousands and thousands of plastic bins that we will have when wheelie bins come along? And I thought, well, I don't think that came up in the planning. So I wrote to the waste management manager, that chap who's in charge of waste. It's rubbish, but anyway, and I said to him, what are we doing? He said, I don't know. I haven't thought of that. Because I know we have 6 bins, don't ask me, I won't go why. But we have a lot of bins, and we are not the only ones to do it. Everybody puts their black bag in the bin, well, they do, a lot of people do. And they have no plan at the moment what to do with this huge quantity of bins and the green recycling bags they really want to change. So I said, could you find out what other authorities have done? Yeah, that. So that's a little interesting footnote to the waste strategy that so far hasn't been strategised. Thank you, Chairman. I'm finished now.
Councillor Reid. Okay, reports from members served on outside problems.
Thank you, Chairman. HPHA report. This last weekend was the Brockman Pier weekend, which is a 2-day event to celebrate the 100 years of the train on the pier. And we managed to get the second restored carriage out on the track. It was a great weekend, both on the pier, on the promenade, at the community centre with a monorail exhibition, and with us at Hythe Shedford Pier. Lots of people, lots of interest. The way it was set up also was to get a lot of outside interest to bring people to the village so they know what the village is about, what there is available, and hopefully that the traders would benefit from it as well. People have probably seen that the temporary platform has been put on the pier, so that now that the second carriage is out and the next one is in the workshop, all the track from the pavement end to where the temporary platform is, all that track, all that woodwork will come up and it'll have new rails, timber, everything in place. So all in all, it was a great weekend. I haven't seen the final figures on it yet, but if everyone who came down even paid £1, it would have been worthwhile. But yeah, it was a good weekend. All right, thank you.
Anybody else want to report on outside body? No, thank you. Public forum, can I ask the clerk to notify if there have been any written questions submitted by electors? Thank you for coming. Would any of you like to say something? If you'd like to take it in turns, I think start from the left, start from the right.
Ladies first.
Start from, if you could give us your name and
Thank you. My name is Brenda Smith and I live in Dibden Parish, Chairman. I'm sure people are very well aware, certainly the county councillor is, because he was working like a trooper actually, but Dibden Parish has taken quite a hammering actually while the road was closed or otherwise messed up. It was an emergency to start with. I think we can all put up with some sort of inconvenience and discommotion for 48, 72 hours if there's an emergency. An emergency does not last for the best part of a month. And the traders have taken a severe hit, and they're the people who actually kept us going during the pandemic. They went above and beyond, and they didn't deserve this and they didn't need it. The bus service was disappeared overnight with no notice of where you could go for a bus, and for many people the extra walk to the rerouted bus was just not possible. The roads that were used by people who were using a diversion that was perhaps not terribly official, which one was Loondale Road, the other was Oak Road. Certainly for Oak Road is entirely unsuitable for very much through traffic at all, and I think that needs to be seriously addressed. I venture to suggest, Chairman, that if that emergency had arisen in, say, by Coke Gardens or top of Langdown Road in South Street, New Road area, Hythe would not have found itself closed for a month. It would have not been allowed to happen. The buses would have not been allowed to go on a diversion without saying where they were going, and Dibden Parish deserves better than what was dished out to them by SGN. I would like the Parish Council to write to the County Council, SGN and whoever else, and ask them that whenever planned works are going to happen, that you get sufficient notice, and that emergency works, this must never ever be allowed to happen again. Chairman, it's simply not good enough. You can call it first world problems if you like, but it was really quite a knock for a number of people up there, significant numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. I am well aware as a resident of Dibden Parish as to how terrible that was, and we will do what we can to take that matter up. Thank you.
You need to write to Hampshire County Council Street Service West they are the organisation that oversees things in this sort of activity. Can I let everybody on I told you before, there's a website called One.Network, and that is a website where all utility companies have to put their activities on. They don't actually have to tell the county council, they don't tell the county council that they don't need to tell anybody, but they have to put it on this. And obviously I found out that SGA put it down, it was a road delay, not a road closure, so they had to go and change it because of the chance for that. But I think it's great to complain. I do think utility companies, particularly in Hythe recently, have been having the sort of road to themselves, metaphorically speaking. So I think it should write council complaints to SGN, but also to the county council street scenes, add their pressure, street service week, to add their pressure to.
Does the council wish the clerk to write to go through?
Yes.
Is that unanimous?
Yes, please.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Am I allowed to ask a question following on from Mr. Smith?
If it's very brief.
Just to say that, is there any hope of compensation for the traders in Dibden Parish from SGN?
Okay, that's not down to us, but
No.
I can introduce it in the letter.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name's Dorothy Lockyer and I'm a resident of Hythe. Good evening, councillors. I would like to draw your attention to the hazardous condition of Shore Road due to the parking of vehicles. One side of Shore Road has become a car park on a daily basis, leaving just one lane of the road for moving traffic in both directions. Shore Road, not being a particularly wide road to start with, makes parking impossible. Speed limits in place, 20, 30 and 40 miles per hour, unfortunately are not always adhered to. Thus a recipe for a head-on collision with fatal results. The road having two significant bends adds further danger to its use. There has already been an accident involving a car and two motorbikes, causing serious leg injuries to one victim. I understand that this has been documented. With my own eyes, I have seen a mobility scooter take evasive action, causing them to lose balance and fall onto the road. Although no physical injury, mental trauma in the loss of confidence and restricting further their restricted mobility. In my opinion, I think it is imperative that something is done now before another industrial unit in the process of being built is staffed, causing yet more cars to be parked. Surely a good policy is being proactive, not reactive in this matter, but I understand that the council responsible for overseeing this area of concern would like evidence of serious accidents or fatalities before taking action. The residents in and around Shore Road need to have their concerns and fears addressed and the appropriate action taken now. Thank you for listening to my concerns.
Thank you, Mrs. Lockyer. Councillor Wade?
Yeah, I'm afraid the authority responsible for that is the county council, which has taken over on-street parking in the district council. I've checked the review. I have complained many times about this. What we have to do is complain, and I encourage all members of the public to write to me so I can pass it on to them, email me, or indeed email Hampshire Parking Services directly, and this council to get in touch with Hampshire Parking Services quite robustly about this issue, because what they can do is possible is to put their lines in. That requires an expensive parking order, road traffic order, it's called. But it can be done, but they need a lot of pressure to be galvanised to do that. So, you know, all I say is continually press. Road safety won't take any action in Hampshire until there's a fatality, I think that's disgusting and appalling, but that is down to the fact that the government have reduced their funding to such a great degree that they don't have the money to do it. It will take them 115 years to fix all the pavements in Hampshire, let alone the roads. So they are suffering from a major funding shortage, but that doesn't make it any better. We can get some parking addressed if enough complaints are made, I think. So we've just got to hammer it. It's a campaign or a battle, but we've got to get on with it and continue.
Thank you, Councillor Cullen.
You mentioned about speeding. I've been in touch with NFBC about trying to get speed indicator devices in roads, and one of them is Shore Road. So they said they are going to consider that. I just need to keep pushing them as to when that's going to happen. I know it doesn't help with the parking, but if people are going slower, hopefully it might avoid an accident.
Harrison, hi. Mr. Chairman, where I received an email from Mr. Twydale, who's the, as you all know, representative for people on Ballydean. Why he sent it to me, I don't know. And a few other people. He had various concerns, as you would expect, but one of them in particular was that they managed to get a meeting with Southern Water, and his complaint and concern was that nobody attended from the council. Can I ask the reasoning for no councillor attending?
We were aware. We were there.
We're all there.
Yeah.
Well,
We were
okay. He has said in his email to me from early July that there was no attendance by councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. I can confirm, whilst I wasn't able to be there, the rest of the councillors did attend.
Perhaps you just forgot.
Well, I can tell you
I
that.
haven't seen very much of them. You probably forget what we look at.
Well, I'll read his exact words. It's appalling that there was no one there, or that nobody attended the meeting. That's what it said in the email.
As clerk, I was there, and I can vouch that there were a great number
Okay,
of
well, thank you for that. I will email him and tell him that he's talking a load of...
Thank you, Mr. Harrison.
Thank you.
A lot of accidents.
Well, just so you
Can I ask if any other members of the public have anything to say? Anything? Thank you. I don't have to leave. If you wish to leave, you can, or if you wish to stay, you can stay. You're welcome. You're welcome. Agenda item number 9, questions. Councillors to take 3 questions from councillors. Quick fly, I didn't see your hand first went up, so Councillor Cullen.
For questions to Councillor McLean, is it true that you attended a memorial service for
Yes.
a councillor who was used to be former councillor here?
Yes.
Would you like to say?
Am I allowed to say
Yes,
that?
you may.
Thank you, Chairman, for that. Not many people here probably knew Joe Fowler. I believe that there was only 4 councillors still serving on this council that served there. She served here. I mean, what do we know about our fellow councillors? We can come down here every Wednesday and not know a damn thing at the end of 4 years. But Joe Fowler served a 4-year term on Hythe Dibden Parish Council. At the time, we were the only 2 ladies on the council, and the time she worked damn hard for the marina, which was her patch. She was dedicated, she was there, and she was passionate about planning. In 1974, Joe was mayor of Reigate District Borough Council. Unless I had been to a memorial, that is something I wouldn't have known. Although Joe and I were on different political parties, we had one thing in common, which I hope all the councillors here will find. We had common respect for each other, which went a long way. Jo was 95 when she passed. She lived a full life, and personally, Chairman, I was very proud to have served as a councillor with her. And God rest her.
Thank you, Councillor McLean. I understand she'll be much missed.
Chairman, can I just make a comment to that point? I want to echo the points that Councillor McLean has made. And the other councils that I sit on do actually commemorate members that have sadly passed. And I think it is right that this council does as well, because everybody here is volunteer and they're giving their time to serve the community. And if during that time, or even after that time, that they have sadly passed as well, we should commemorate it with a moment of silence. And I think that's absolutely right to do that. And as I will also echo the fine words that you already said about Council.
Chairman, to you. You're aware that the government is applying funds to investigate the feasibility of the reopening of the train service on the water side. The views of residents are being sought and there are numerous places set up to find the details. But what are we as a council doing to advertise them? And could we ensure when we do, it is put as a priority on Hythe Pier, as this affects all of us on this side of the water, more than the shipping arrivals and on any other outlets we have access to.
Thank you, Councillor Fairhead.
Quick response to that is I've asked the parish development officer to look at all the ways in which she can publicise this.
Lovely, thank you, Clark.
I also ask everybody else for social media to put the dates out there so that everybody knows, either on their personal one or on their council.
And the link which is available.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Wade.
How fortuitous. Is the Chairman aware, on a similar vein, the Freedom Rivers Partnership is producing a short advertising film to support the reinstatement of the rail in partnership with Ford Waterside. And they have asked, would any member of this parish council like to be on that and say a few words in support, and any local people as well. They are coming to the level crossing at Cross Lane at 11:30 on Monday. And if any members of the council wish to be there and show support and perhaps be on the film, or members of the public, they let me know, I'll let them know. Because I'm going to do it as well, because it's a way of physically supporting it, and this film will be sent to the people in consultation.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Dunley.
Yes, Chairman. Are you aware that the old skateboard site is actually open so that children can use it for practicing cycling and scootering and so on? And could we sort of make that more generally known?
Thank you, Councillor Dunley. I think again something else that could go out on social media, and we're able to add it to.
Yeah, it's always open. Is that correct, Sean?
It is, yes.
I agree with maybe reminders.
Apparently there was, people were thinking that it wasn't and that people were trespassing when they were.
No, I think there was a misunderstanding. It's always been open.
Yeah, well, if we could just advertise the fact of it. Thank you.
Councillor Cullen.
Is the chairperson aware that there was recently a very serious fire at Forest Front, which not only destroyed shrubbery but took down telephone lines and caused, for some residents, like almost post-traumatic stress? And can we try and promote people to take care, you know, in with the considering how dry the foliage and stuff like that is?
Thank you, Councillor Cullen. I live alongside the woodlands in Dibden Parish, and I'm fully aware of the fear of fire. Yes, I do think it's something that we need to make sure. It's usually the youngsters that are in the woods. Unfortunately, I believe that was the case at Forest Front, and I was on net review at the time of the fire, and it was quite rough. Thank you. Any more questions? No. Number 10, Grants Working Group. We need to appoint an additional member to the Grants Working Group. Currently, Councillors Dowd, Fairhead and McLean. This is a GP and Ed request, please. So, would anybody like to volunteer? perhaps we actually need somebody? Are we short of one to be?
You already have three. I think the thinking was that from the GPNF committee that if one is unavailable, then another one was wanted. I think I discussed this with the deputy clerk today. We think that three is adequate because a lot of the work is done by email as well. So we can put this on the next agenda while people think about it.
Yes,
if they
please.
wish.
Keep trying.
We will keep trying.
I think we should put chair of the council with these holidays, won't it?
If it's emails, I could just review it. 10, grants work, oh no, we've done that. 11, Christmas. 2022 Best Decorated House Competition. To consider whether to continue with the Christmas 2022 Best Decorated House Competition. You will find that there is, I believe, in here somewhere. We have some options for the council to decide on. So, 1, the Best Decorated House Competition stays in its current format, costing £450 per annum and 25 hours of officer time plus councillor time. 2, Best Decorated House Competition becomes one overall winner, i.e. the 7 ward winners are dropped, costing £100 per annum plus 10 hours of officer time plus lower councillor time. 3, the Best Decorated House Competition is dropped completely so that other council initiatives are pursued involving councillors and officers.
Yeah.
Obviously there was a breakdown in the report, as everyone read. Does anybody have an opinion on what of those 3 items?
We've got Mark
Councillor
I would like to state the case really for option number 1. The problem is, I think if we go for option number 2, although it's cheaper, it's not really spreading the love, is it? So where's the one we get 7 winners? Or is that it? No, not the second or third. And each ward has its own distinctive character, shall I say. So I think it is better if we could have, one for each ward. I know it's slightly more expensive, but hey, it's Christmas.
This was introduced when COVID was around as a way of getting the community to still get involved. COVID's now on the way, as we go on, it's on the way. And I think maybe with the fact that it is costing quite a lot of officer time, that we should not go ahead.
Say what you think.
Councillor Roberts.
I would second Mr. Lodge. Did you say number 3? Yes. I agree with that.
Get more views and then take a vote.
Okay. Anybody else? Councillor Delamere?
Have we got a new idea what the general public think about this?
Well, we never used to have it, excuse me, Chairman. We never used to do it, right? We do give lots of money to the decorated fire engine when it goes round and everything like that. Our officers spend an awful lot of time on doing an awful lot of things to keep us happy, and the councillors and whoever is chairman at the time has got to drive all round all the estate, and somebody's going to get upset, so scrap it all together and put the money to something else.
Councillor Dowd.
Yes, I think it's probably a good idea for those people that didn't follow the GPNF committee, just to understand a little bit more about the circumstances. It was started during lockdown, and there was a reasonable take up in the first time, but there wasn't such a good take up the second time, and I think it was the feeling that it had kind of run its purpose then, because people were able to mix more readily then. So that was the reason why we felt, well, we do need to review it. Is it really serving its purpose? Is it cost effective? So that was the reasoning behind that. Thank you.
So Fairhead first.
Chair, I go with option 3. The people that do the decorated house are usually the same ones. If anyone else wanted to take part, there's a lot of expense that they've got to incur in getting the decorations. And with the economic climate we've got at the moment, they haven't got the money to buy food, let alone fancy lights. So I think it's run its course, we stop it. If at a later date, if it can come back, we bring it back. But at the moment, stop it.
Can I make one final plea for option 1? in the sense that there's a thing people have missed, that all the prize money goes back into local businesses. We are giving them vouchers for local businesses. So it's sort of highly Dibden's quantities, maybe.
Right. I would say option 3 only because as well, with the electric costs, who's really going to be able to afford to run all these lights this year? And I don't want anyone to feel pressured to do a nice show. Do you know?
Less is more.
No, it's not. Not Christmas lights, I'm sorry.
Question, that's it. Are we talking about this for 22, 20, Christmas, this coming Christmas?
This Christmas coming.
Yeah. Have we got money in the existing budget for this? I ought to know. I mean, if we haven't got money in this budget, it's a no-brainer. But is there money in the budget already?
There was money put aside in the budget, however, the budget is overstretched already. So where you can make savings would be advantageous for the council.
Okay.
Can I propose we adopt option 3?
We have a seconder.
I agree. Option 3.
Can all councillors take a vote?
Those in favour of option 3, hands up. I think that's unanimous. Almost unanimous. That's passed, so isn't it?
I hope you can live with yourself.
Not spreading the
I'll just say all on.
Sure, just do it all on your house and we'll just come and look. Okay?
We move on to item 12, which is finance 2022-2023. Received the bank reconciliation report for May, June 2022. Everyone has seen it. Can I have a proposer and a seconder to approve?
Did you receive it? Did we just receive it? Yeah, there.
To approve the quarterly spend versus budget report for the period Q1. Do I have a proposer and a seconder?
I'll have to propose.
Second.
All in favour? The investment report for Q1 you've got, and approve the accounts for payment for June 2022. Can I have a proposer and a seconder? And all in favour? Right, I believe we've come to the exclusion of press and public. To resolve that the press and public be excluded from the meeting for the following business on grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information. Thank you. Part 1 of Schedule 12 Local Government Act 1972.
Propose and second.
Proposer?
I'll propose.
Seconder? All in favour?
I'm just going to turn the recording off and shut the door.